So, the year is 2017. Warhammer 40k finally moves past the year marker of 999M41 with the Gathering Storm series, and 6 months later, we get 8th edition and several new storylines. One of those new storylines, called Vigilus, would be the start of the titular name of this video. Essentially, for all intents and purposes, Vigilus was slowly becoming the new Cadia of modern 40k. Although, instead of it being Chaos versus Imperium, it started with everyone versus everyone. It would eventually just become Chaos versus Imperium again a few short years later with story updates though, leading to where we are now, with the Nachmund Rift War, also known as Nachmund Gauntlet. As of this script's writing, Nachmund is the only storyline within 40k right now to focus on, well, the thing that split the galaxy in half. You know, the single greatest consequence in 40k since Slaanesh was born. Good job, Imperium. You somehow managed to fuck up worse than the Eldar by letting Abaddon attempt to parallel park a Death Star. So, how important is the Nachmund Gauntlet, and why are we covering it? Well, let's do a bit of backstory so you can know about the Imperium's desperate attempt to keep the galaxy connected. The year is M41999, and Abaddon, the War Master of Chaos and 40k's big bad guy, has destroyed Cadia, the planet that was the first line of defense against the forces of chaos that were coming out of a location called the Eye of Terror, a massive warp rift in the galaxy that basically lets anyone just fly into the warp. Not that you'd want to, but hey, I don't judge. With the destruction of Cadia and its network of blackstone pylons that were holding the Eye of Terror back, the warp rift was able to expand, and with its expansion, it basically did the thing where the cracks in your windshield do when they meet. However, instead of just blocking your view of the road, the galaxy was split in half. The Imperium refers to one side as Imperium Sanctus, and the other as Imperium Nihilus. Wow, we're going to be nihilistic about this, guys. Cut to about a year later with the rise of Raboot Guilliman in the year M42001. Guilliman would launch the Indomitus Crusade, a crusade where multiple armadas were deployed to different war zones to liberate or reinforce those areas of space. One of these areas was the newly discovered Nachmund Gauntlet. Oh my god! Title drop!
Could we judge him?
Yes.
So, to explain this, the Nachmund Gauntlet is basically a network of stable warp jump points within the Great Rift, meaning that it, and its sister network the Attilan Gate, are the only ways to connect Imperium Sanctus and Nihilus, and much like a D&D party wanting to keep one day a month open as much as possible, the Imperium is throwing everything to the defense of these points. Oh, and to those asking why the Imperium and the other factions don't just go through the Great Rift, now, anyone else want to float their ship into a hurricane? No? Good! Moving on. So, entrance and exit. In this case, for Sanctus to Nihilus, starts at Fort Cybaltus and ends at Vigilus, which is where our story starts. Vigilus came under attack by multiple groups over the span of time where the Great Rift opened to where we are now. The first of these major invaders would be, of course, the Orcs. A massive orc speedwa invaded the planet, and while they played Mario Kart with the Imperial Defenders, a Genestealer cult that was fermenting for years in the Underhive panicked at the Great Rift cutting off their connection to their star gods. Feeling like they had failed their gods and needed to atone, they launched their own uprising in the middle of the Imperial defenses. Okay, now hold on to your head, because I'm going to speedrun this bit. So with the orcs and gene circles causing massive mayhem across Imperial lines, the Indominus fleet led by Marnius Calgar, that guy you saved in Space Marine 2, and a new group called the Castellans of the Rift would arrive to aid the defenses. But to add to the shit show, not only would the Dark Eldar and Craftworld Eldar show up to cause even more problems, or in the case of the Craftworld Eldar, show up only to help, only to get fired upon by the Imperial defenders, mistaking them for Dark Eldar pirates, there was also a Space Hulk that appeared, carrying an infected crew dubbed the Geller Pox Infected, spewing its infected crew onto Vigilus, with elements of the Death Guard Traitor Legion arriving to also cause problems. Now your brain is probably asking, this can't get any worse, can it? I don't know what you were expecting. This is 40k. It can always get worse. Okay, so about a few years into this shit show, Marnius was able to get the defenses somewhat back on track, though he had to execute several members of Vigilus High Command because they were either Genestealer cultists in disguise or were just plain stupid. Things were seeming to improve until the highest spires on Vigilus stopped reporting in, with planetary psychers both whispering and screaming about a Dark King coming to fuck everything up. Turns out the Hive Spires were under assault by warbands of Chaos Raptors, Warp Talons, and Helldrakes, and they were all being coordinated by new character by now! Harkin Worldclaimer, Herald of the Apocalypse. Harkin and his forces launched a sabotage campaign across Vigilus, spreading fear and allowing his allies to destroy key defensive points all over Vigilus, while hailing the entire world and declaring that in 80 days, Vigilus would fall, as Abaddon and the Black Legion Armada were on their way. Marnius, however, would try to use his fleet to intercept said armada, only to get his ass kicked and his capital ship heavily damaged, leaving the way open for the forces of chaos to attack Vigilus. Which they do, and Vigilus becomes even more of a shit show. As well, everyone is attacking this one planet. Now again, speedrunning the events here, Imperial defenders launched desperate campaigns to either retake defensive positions, hives, or territory. Marnius, who recovered from his space battle, manages to make peace with the Craftworld Eldar by letting them do something to Vigilus' high command, which means that the Imperials and the Eldar are now teamed up to fight against the forces of chaos. Marnius launches an attack on Abaddon's main forces and lure the War Master out into one-on-one combat, while the Eldar use their fleet to slip behind the heretical fleet in orbit with their payload of Imperial warheads to attack the heart of the Chaos Armada, Abaddon's flagship, the Vengeful Spirit. Now, Marnius would get his ass kicked again, but that was the point. He distracted Abaddon long enough for the Eldar to launch their assault on the Vengeful Spirit and damage it extensively. So much so that Harkin reported in to tell Abaddon that the crew was planning to flee, leading to the War Master taking flight from Vigilus to, not lose a symbol of his authority. This single act basically saved Vigilus, with Abaddon taking flight and the forces of chaos just started to fall in on one another and went on to attack other targets without the guy to point them in the right direction. Granted, this is where the Battle of Vigilus turns into the Nachmund Rift War, which is where we finally get to what's going on in modern 40k. With Abaddon going off to do more fun things in the Arcs of Omen campaign, Harkin Worldclaimer would be retasked by Abaddon to basically just go cause problems within the network that connected Vigilus to Imperium Sanctus, which would be kind of a problem as the defenders were emboldened by the sacrifice of Saint Marnius Calgar. Turns out the people think Marnius is dead when he's actually not, and that his noble sacrifice rallied the defenders on Vigilus and within the Gauntlet. Robu Guilliman sent more forces to the Nachmund Gauntlet as well, starting with the siege of Darvar, a fallen night world that Guilliman wanted to reclaim so that the Imperium would have a better foothold in the Gauntlet. However, the stalemated siege was broken when Harkin Worldclaimer and his armada arrived, breaking the Imperial attack and sending their forces reeling back towards Imperium Sanctus. With the way open, Harkin and his armada would launch an invasion of the Rift and begin destroying everything in their path. Though Harkin was seeing major successes throughout the Gauntlet, remember that conducting a protracted campaign is not Chaos's strong suit. Harkon and his forces did manage to take multiple planets and broke a massive Imperial armada, capturing not only its admiral, but capturing tons of ships to replace the losses they were suffering. Though anything Harkon's forces left behind was immediately attacked by Space Marine forces enacting a guerrilla war, Orc forces storming into the Gauntlet, or Dark Eldar forces taking advantage of the chaos and pirating all sides. Of course, the other problem came from Vigilus being secured, leaving Harkon and his forces stuck between a rock and a hard place, with the only way out being forward. Harkon, however, would receive a new batch of reinforcements, because, well, the Great Rift is basically a massive warp tear, meaning that as long as the forces of Chaos conduct proper rituals, and the Chaos God's ADHD doesn't get the better of them, they can get reinforcements. Mostly safe to Harkon's group, and Abaddon sent the warship called World Killer to Harkon's armada, making it his new flagship. Which, by the way, this thing is a planet killer, so... Oh no!
Dude, come on! I had a really bad day.
How did you? Did your plans go awry when someone f***ed up?
The most recent battle of the Rift War was over the world of Sanguiterra, the literal front door of the Gauntlet. Which boils down to, much like how the rest of the story is going, Chaos shows up, Imperials throw everything they got at them, and through a mix of tactical feints, demonic deals, and genuinely GW just needing things to get worse, Harkon's forces overwhelm Sanguiterra. Though, through a mix of a few other problems, Harkon's assault cost him dearly, and now he doesn't have the firepower outside of World Killer to take Fort Cybaltus. Though, he hopes that the admiral he captured earlier will provide him everything he needs to break through, which is where we have left off with the recent campaign book. Nachmund Gauntlet is GW's current ongoing Chaos vs. Imperial campaign. Though it started as everyone joining the Imperial Curb Stomp party, it has since balanced out back to the main conflict like Cadia was, an endless stalemate where Chaos can't get over the Imperial wall, but the Imperials can't break the forces outside the wall. In real life for the game, Vigilus was an event to give armies in 8th edition updated rules and models, while also giving newcomers an event to hop into story-wise. Since then, though, we're kinda back to the status quo for Warhammer 40k. We don't know how the Nachmund Gauntlet campaign will end, cause, well, 40k is always in a realm of stalemate, and since we're going back to Armageddon, we probably won't be hearing from the Gauntlet for the next little bit. Which means we can focus on the other sides of the galaxy till that comes out. So next time, as we will cover the start of 10th edition storyline, the 4th Tyrannic War, as Space Marine 2 continues to get updates and follows that war zone closely. So will we. Hey, thanks for watching. If you want to see more from me, please hit that subscribe button and that bell icon, just to be alerted if I upload anything new. As well, don't forget to share this video around with your friends on Blue Sky, Reddit, wherever the hell you can get your hands on. And don't forget to check out my Patreon. If you subscribe for only $5 a month, you get to see my videos a whole week early before they come out on YouTube. And don't forget to follow me on Twitch, because I stream there every Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But yeah, thank you so much for the support. I literally cannot do this without you guys. So, have a good day.